In this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use some of the filtering techniques in Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. To get started, we're going to go to a page with some data. So from my favorites list, I'm going to click All Purchase Orders. Once the All Purchase Orders list page opens, we'll see two different filter options that we're going to discuss first. The first is the filter show filters option here, which opens up the filter pane, and then the quick filters option, which we'll talk about in a moment. To get started, let's click Show Filters. The filters pane defaults with one field that you can search from. You'll notice this field says purchase order. That refers to the purchase order field in the form. We can also add additional filter fields here based on the information that is actually in the system. So if, for instance, I wanted to look at invoice accounts and filter by that, I could do so by clicking Invoice Account. Let's say that I want to filter by purchase orders that begin with 3 zeros, and we'll list that as begins with, and then invoice accounts that contain the number 1. So there's my data, and then I'm going to click Apply. And the list that populates here is now the filtered list. You can tell which fields were filtered because they now have a funnel icon next to the actual name of the column. If you're done looking at filtered records, you can then click Reset to look at the entire list. And now that the filter icons have gone away from the field names for purchase order and invoice account, we know we're looking at the complete list. And then to close the filter pane, you can click the Hide Filters button. Next, we'll look at the Quick Filter option. This is a modeled control that can be associated with any grid in the system. As a user begins typing in this field, a column selector dropdown appears to guide the user towards the column that the filter will be applied to, and you can select it from the list. So let's say I am looking for an approval status, and I want the approval status to be approved. So as I started typing, now I have a bunch of different selections here. I want to search by approval status. So I can select that. You can see that the list now contains only purchase orders that have an approval status of approved because of this filter. Once I'm done looking at these filtered options, I can click the X to clear the quick filter screen. And you can see now that the entire list has returned. The grid filtering experience that is also available is more closely aligned with Microsoft Excel. When you click a column header, a drop-down dialog is displayed that lets you filter the column based on specific criteria. So let's take a look. I want to filter the invoice account column, so I'm going to click the drop-down, and it will give me specific options. I can sort these in alphabetical or reverse alphabetical order. And in the invoice account field, I can search for specific criteria. And this would be similar to what we saw in the filter options. We can have it be exactly, not, contains, does not contain, begins with, is one of, after or before, or matches the data that we put in here. So if I enter US dash, and I want to look specifically for invoice accounts that start with this, I can click begins with and then click apply. And then we can see that the filter icon has shown up again in invoice account, indicating that the field is filtered. And we can see that all of these invoice accounts now start with the criteria that I selected. If I want to remove that filter, I can click the drop down again, and then I can click clear to remove the filter.